In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, we have liftoff on the Charlie Rocket Show. I am your host, Charlie Rocket, aka CEO Charlie, aka Mr. Dream Bigger, aka Mr. Rewind. I just said Dream Bigger. That's wrong. It's Dream Crazy, aka Mr. Believe Bigger. Okay? Now, a lot of times the reason why, now let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. The reason why I don't say Dream Bigger is because that's what we're always told to do as kids. So I wanted to mix it up and I wanted to say Dream Crazy, but what I did want to prescribe is what nobody prescribes. I wish somebody told me when I was little, Charlie, believe bigger. Believing is what gets you your results. That's why I wake up every single morning and I write down my quantum possibilities and I put them in my quantum piggy bank. Yes, I have a piggy bank. If you see my Instagram stories, you will see me deposit. It's a big, beautiful porcelain piggy bank. And before I write in my quantum possibilities notebook, I really try to get high as possible, increase my vibration as high as possible on coffee. So I drink my 4 Sigmatic coffee with the lion's mane that gives me the focus, the caffeine, the energy, and I get my vibration going. I then send out the signal from my heart. I have a morning routine. I do my quantum possibilities. I believe so big. I'm a delusional optimist in my dreams. But I also understand how everything works. For example, why do I call myself a rocket? Well, I'm not particularly fast, and I'm not particularly talented at anything I do when I start. I call myself a rocket because all rockets start off slow. When I start my businesses, for example, if you go listen to my episode of how we sold 8 shirts to 2 million dabbing Santa sweaters in 30 days, I started off slow like a rocket. And when I started training for my Ironman and I weighed 305 pounds, I started off slow like a rocket. Now, Charlie, what are you talking about? A rocket starts off slow? Yes, a rocket starts off slow. Every rocket starts off slow. There's never been a rocket that starts off fast. And that's why me and you are just like rockets. They start off slow, but it's only 62 miles to outer space. Okay? 62 miles, that's it. And when I say I understand how it works, this is what I'm talking about. I'll give you a real life example with this podcast. See, I'm not worried that the podcast hasn't taken all the way off yet because I'm only at episode number 11. I can't worry about anything until I get to episode number 62. Why 62? It's 62 miles to outer space. And I've got this universal law thing that goes on in my life. I don't know why, if it's just for me, but I don't think it's just for me. I think it's for everybody. And I call it the law of 62. And hopefully, me instilling this into you will give you so much hope with everything you're doing. But first, I need to break down some examples so you can understand why I'm so passionate, because I can just imagine you're sitting there listening. Oh, I wonder if this is going to be a good podcast, and Charlie's just randomly talking about the number 62. No, you've got to trust me here. I'm not this passionate for no reason. Let me tell you something crazy. The law of 62 states that when a rocket gets to mile 62, it is now out of the atmosphere where gravity is no longer pulling it, and it gets easier and faster than ever. I went back in my life and I wanted to count how many songs my very first group released. Hold on. I actually have this written down in my notebook. Let me grab my notebook because I've got some examples that I want to tell you guys. Give me 1 second. Let me get my notebook for when I broke this down. Okay? 1 second. All right, here's my notebook from last year. This is last December. Let me pull up the page where I started discovering and dissecting how this law of 62 was displayed in my life. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. Okay, here we go. The law of 62. Now, the goal with any of us is to get to that point where we get fast and where it's easy and where gravity's not holding us down anymore, whether it's with our health and we start off slow or we start off running or start off with a business or say we're a YouTube content creator or say we want to be an Instagram star or say we want to sell vacuum cleaners like I used to do. The goal for all of us is to get to outer space. So I'm managing Travis Porter. 2009, we released a mixtape, had 19 songs, January 1st. April 1st, released another mixtape with 19 songs. Then we released a mixtape with 26 songs, okay? Let me do the math. 19, 19, 26. We had our first hit on that mixtape. That's 64 songs released before we found our first hit. When we found our first hit, we hit the stratosphere. It was absolutely no looking back. Right around that 62 number. Now you might be skeptical, Charlie, I don't know about that. Maybe that's a coincidence. Well, let me tell you another story. 2 Chainz, my next artist. Here we are. We released a mixtape with 15 songs, another mixtape with 17 songs, another mixtape with 19 songs. Let's see. Then we released a couple music videos, a couple songs in between. Our first hit, Spend It. 60 pieces of content released, and we got our first hit. Spend It was a top 10 record in the country. 2 Chainz made it to outer space right around song number 60. Okay. Now, 2 Chainz had a point in his career where he got a little cold and we had to bring him back. Okay? So check this out. The 2 Chainz comeback. Okay? We're in a tough spot. You know, a lot of new artists were coming out. 2 Chainz was no longer the new artist that people cared about, and we had to bring him back. In music, I don't care if you're, Michael Jackson, James Brown, Marvin Gaye. When you get cold, it is so hard to come back. It is a game where it's ruthless, and they will eat you alive. But I knew subconsciously how the law of 62 works. And I said, 2 Chainz, man, we gotta start releasing mixtapes again. Gotta start putting out all this free music to get this engine riled up. So we released a mixtape, Trapavelli Trey. We released another one, Felt Like Capping. We released another one, Danielson Necklace Done. We released another one, Hibachi for Lunch. We released another one, Collard Grove. And then we released an album. We were finally able to get hot enough to release an album, Pretty Girls Like Trap Music. And on Pretty Girls Like Trap Music, we had 4 hits. It took over 60 songs to get to our first hit again. It took over a year and a half of releasing music, but it's right around that number 62. Now you're like, oh, Charlie, this only applies to music. No, it does not. Because I went back in my Strava. Strava is an app that tracks how many runs and how many bike training you do. It's like it's an app. It tracks your time and distance, and I would use it for my Ironman training. And I said, I wonder if the law of 62 applies to my training. I trained for my Ironman for like 6 or 7 months of running and biking. And I went and counted how many runs I did and how many bikes I did to be able to do an entire Ironman. Well, the runs were 58. The bikes were 64. It's all around that 62. And when I was able to get to that number, when I was able to just get to that stratosphere, I was able to do an Ironman where there's no more gravity and things just get easier. So I want you to think about the law of 62 in your business and in your life. The breakthrough is coming. So when you're at phone call number 52, don't worry. You just got to get to 62 and you're going to have a breakthrough. When you're a YouTube content creator and you're at video 12, don't worry. Just be consistent until you get to 62. Now, a rocket also can't take off, stop, and let it come back down. It has to keep pushing, so you can't take breaks. The goal is just get to 62. That's what I'm doing with this podcast. I'm like, I can't worry about anything until I get to 62. I have a thermometer on my refrigerator. It's a whiteboard that I drew a thermometer, and it says 62 podcast episode goals. I got to just get to 62. That's probably when my podcast is going to go extremely viral. It's just going to be something that happens universally. In this universe, there's laws. I don't know how they're made. I don't know why it was decided that it was going to be 62 miles to outer space. I didn't make that up. But there's something beautiful about knowing that it's okay in mile 1, 2, 3. It's okay to be slow. Because a rocket doesn't take off and say, oh, it's too hard. Let me go back down to earth. No, it says, I just have one goal. Let me get to 62, because if I can instill this into your mind, it will help you with your goal, with everything you're trying to do, with your health, with your running, with your business, with everything you're trying to do. Let's set it at 62 and watch what happens. That was this episode of the Charlie Rocket Show. This was a little pocket rocket for you guys. Something quick, something for me to just download some of my programming that's in my head into yours. Because nothing fascinates me more than a way of life. Now, let me explain. I want, when I leave this earth, for things I've learned and things I'm teaching to carry on for thousands of years. That is my goal. I am extremely fascinated with isms. I'm fascinated with the fact that somebody came up with veganism, and now there's thousands and thousands of millions and millions of preachers who are carrying it on. And whoever that person was, I mean, they might be dead, and but it's carrying on. Or Christianity or Stoicism, these ways of life that teach people how to be better carry on for thousands of years. And that's what I want my legacy to be. There are things I'm learning, and I want to give them to you guys. And by the time I'm dead, I'm going to have it all packaged up and figured out. But that's why I want to do this quick little pocket rocket episode on the Charlie Rocket Show. The law of 62. I hope it helps you with what you're doing. And a quick Rocket Gang State of the Union address. Rocket University is coming. Entertainment is coming. Rocket HQ is coming. I want you guys also to follow my Instagram and pay attention to my stories. I do my morning routine, and I'm going to start teaching you guys my morning routine and how I go about my success and the things I'm doing in my life. So there's certain products I use. There's certain things I do, like I write out my quantum possibilities. So I want to instill that in you guys. So that is this episode of the Charlie Rocket Show. The biggest thing you can do for me, since this is free content, there's one thing I would love from you. Please screenshot this podcast, get on your Instagram and share it. Instagram is filled with pollution and candy. Candy looks good and it tastes good, but if you eat too much of it, it makes you sick. So it's time for us to start giving people more of what candy resembles. And if you notice, all candy mimics fruit. Podcasts like this are fruit. When people eat it, they get healthier. When people consume it, they get healthier. And it's time for us to start showing more of that. So take this podcast episode, screenshot it, share it. We will create a movement. I'm guessing it'll take about 62 episodes and we will be in outer space. But until then, us as Rocket Gang, we are going to keep pushing and we are going to keep pushing. And I want you to push with me. This is episode 11, but let's keep pushing. I need you. Let's push. And I'm not going to give up, and I don't want you guys to give up on me, okay? So please share. Please support Rocket Gang. Rocket HQ is coming. If you're interested in becoming a founding member of Rocket University, the entertainment system, email me, ceocharlie@gmail.com. Thank you, and I'm excited to give you another episode of The Charlie Rocket Show coming tomorrow.